all of you from wherever you are this morning to join us in this beautiful day in Las Cruces here at the UU Church. And we celebrate tomorrow World Gratitude Day. And of course, I'll be celebrating my 59th birthday. And I thank you all for being a part of it and making it special. Well, today I want to start off by thanking our member Ron Ross for giving me this sermon's title. It was originally an auction sermon, and we didn't get to it last year, and I want to make sure that we do now. I didn't forget it, so I thank Ron and Carla for their generosity. I also want to give a special shout out this morning to Brother Tom Dormady, who opened the doors to his university classroom last week and invited me to lecture. It was a great experience, and I really enjoyed being with Tom and his undergrad and graduate students. Well, today we're talking about Ubuntu and putting the UU in Ubuntu. As we heard, the term Ubuntu comes from the African Bantu dialect. You pronounce it uu-Boon-too. And it has several meanings, but the one I want to home in on today is I am because we are. In particular, I am a UU because we are a UU community. We are a tribe of religious people who created a special community with certain rituals marking our identity as Unitarian Universalists. We begin our service with opening words, a chalice lighting, and recite our affirmation of covenant. Then there is a time for all ages, reflections, and a sermon. We have special music that often is unique to us. There are outstanding service associates who often lead worship, and each element is peculiar to this community. The African moral ethical framework is peculiar too. Imagine it as a series of concentric circles. God is the center, the next circle is the ancestors, then the community, then the family, with the person as the outer circle. The community creates the individual by bestowing upon them customs, creeds, beliefs, values, and life instructions for existing in the world. The community created content is very specific to each tribe. And here's a funny story from the comedian Emo Phillips that conveys that idea. Emo says, I was walking along the Golden Gate Bridge and I saw this guy about to jump. I said, don't jump. He said, nobody loves me. I said, God loves you. Are you a Christian or a Jew? He said, a Christian. I said, me too. Protestant or Catholic? He said, Protestant. I said, me too. What denomination? He said, Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Baptist or Southern Baptist? He said, Northern Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Baptist conservative or Northern Baptist liberal? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Conference or Northern Conservative Baptist Eastern Conference? He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Conference. I said, me too. Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Conference, Council of 1879, or Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Conference, Council of 1912. He said, Northern Conservative Baptist Great Lakes Conference, Council of 1912. I said, die, heretic, and I pushed him off. Well, you can see here, it gets really specific when it comes down to the tribe and the community created content. Ubuntu refers to community specific content that creates identity. I like this word Ubuntu because I align it with our acronym UU. The word begins and ends with U. How do we live up to our Ubuntu as UUs? We begin by embracing our uniqueness in the faith community. We exist on the far left end of the religious spectrum, making us liberals. The other end is conservative, as we heard from Emo Phillips. We recognize and embrace all people. We recognize we practice our faith differently than other denominations. You use ordained women and LGBTQ people, accept children into our faith as whole lives before they assent to creeds. We side with love, live fully into social justice convictions, work diligently and have for several decades towards racial justice, protest civil rights for all people, and aspire to live into the ideals of human community in ways that other religions rarely approach. UUs are all over social justice action, standing with Native peoples forbidding pipeline construction, on the front line of abortion rights, ahead of the curve on climate, forward on marriage equality, and progressive regarding religious education and how children understand spirituality, religious practice, respect of other faiths, and learn sexuality. These ideals and positions bind Unitarian Universalists, making us a particular faith community. As such, you and I live on the outskirts of American religious life. These distinctions create uu-Ubuntu. Most religious traditions stand on scriptural precepts and doctrines which they do not depart from, believing that it would be unrighteous, unholy, or sinful. Ubuntu speaks about Africans, African peoples transported across the diaspora, especially those who came here as enslaved people, saw the African continent as a symbol of themselves. Living under the yoke of slavery, African people maintained their African connection and identity of the societies they came from. Enslaved Africans initially rejected Christianity. They thrived on the ancestral religions they brought with them to this strange land. Their homeland was integral to their identity. UUs have historically rejected conventional religious beliefs. Early Unitarians and early Universalists rejected traditional Christian doctrines. They viewed those religious expressions as insufficient for their chosen identity and calling in the world. Remembering our religious ancestors and their outspokenness symbolizes our identity in this sometimes strange religious landscape. Unitarian Universalists understand inclusivity as reimagining how human beings can creatively and compassionately live together. This image symbolizes living into humanity's full potential, its goodness, diversity, and takes seriously our conviction all people are inherently worthy. The African religion scholar John S. Mbidi wrote in his pioneering book, African Religions and Philosophy, and I quote, "To be human is to belong to the whole community, and to do so involves taking part in the beliefs, ceremonies, and rituals and festivals of that community. A person cannot detach himself from the religion of his group, for to do so is to be severed from his roots, his foundation, his context of security, his kinships, and the vast entire group of those who make him aware of his own existence. To be without one of these corporate elements is to be out of the whole picture. Therefore, to be without religion amounts to a self-excommunication of the entire life of society, and African peoples do not know how to exist without religion. I believe these words speak powerfully to Unitarian Universalists. They encourage us to tell the world who we are. They say to us who we are and affirm that we are who we say we are because of our beliefs and convictions, roots, foundations, and context of security. I'm secure in the world knowing that I am your UU minister. I explain to people what UU means every time someone asks me what I do, and I'm good with that. I'm as explicit as I can be about our way of being inclusive in the world and how UUs down through history embraced a minority report regarding faith and belief. It seems to me not speaking openly and honestly to people about what Unitarian Universalism stands for, as Mabidi says, is a excommunication from the entire life of our UU society. I am who I am because of you, this congregation, because of the Unitarian Universalist Association, because of my ministerial colleagues, all of whom reinforced for me my identity as a Unitarian Universalist minister. And Peter J. Parris' seminal work, The Spirituality of African Peoples, The Search for a Common Moral Discourse, he wrote, wholly repulsed by racism, African Americans made the term race into a prophetic principle of social change. That is to say, whenever they used the terms race, African, Negro, colored, they were reconstituting themselves into a new tribal unity in which they sought to preserve their dignity and self-respect, even though the majority population treated them as pariahs. UUs have done a similar thing with our identity. We've embraced a series of liberal religious positions, including the oneness of God, the humanity of Jesus, the freedom of individuals to interpret scripture, and maybe most importantly, the inherent goodness of human nature. We've embraced a series of liberal changes in society and culture, such as women's equality, reproductive rights, racial equality, marriage equality, environmental and ecological preservation, immigration legislation, animal rights, and religious diversity. And you probably know, embracing liberal issues makes you a religious and cultural pariah. For that reason, our community identity is vital to our individual identity. As Parrish argues, the strength of social cohesion depends on the degree to which the people truly desire and need a separate collective identity. Ambiguity, he says, on this point renders the identity precarious and the unity ethereal. The strength of the community's unity depends on the power of myths, customs, and rituals that are expressive of their collective self-understanding and capable of inspiring their loyalty to the community's primary cause. That's a lot to say and some beautiful words to live by. I visited with a good friend this week who had read my children's book titled Finding Your Way Home. The book's main character, Zoe, discovers the beauty of being in a religious community that is specifically UU. Before that, she considered herself an outsider, not quite a pariah, but an outsider because her family was the only one in her circle that didn't attend church on Sundays. But after finding a UU community, she realized that she had found her way home. My friend remarked, "Are you saying that now she has her group, they have their group, and that's a good thing?" To which I said, "Absolutely. We all need our own community as a source of our individual identity. In the name of Ubuntu, I want you to embrace the power and myths, customs, and rituals that are an expressive of the collective UU self-understanding and capable of inspiring your loyalty to this community's primary cause, being a force of love and transformation in the Los Cruces community. My friends, we must convey love in all that we do. Let us be clear. Just as African peoples do not know how to exist without religion, according to Mbiti, UUs don't know how to exist without UU faith convictions. We are UUs in the church, and we are UUs beyond the church. Even if you leave this community, you will take your Unitarian Universalism with you wherever you go. African Americans made the term race into a prophetic principle of social change. UUs made love into a principle of spiritual and social change. I know we find it hard to love each other from time to time, and our differences are difficult to work out. So we must remind ourselves to practice love individually because that makes us who we are collectively. It's a self-reinforcing principle reminding us we need this community and its unity to realize our full humanity. Now I'm going to bring this to a close real quickly, so hang on. A woman goes to a doctor with her husband for his exam. And after the exam, the doctor pulls the wife aside and says, "Your husband is suffering from severe long-term stress, and he is a good candidate for a heart attack or a stroke. If you don't do the following 3 things, he will surely die. First, every morning, fix him a healthy breakfast. Second, when he gets home, make him a warm, nutritious dinner, and don't burden him with household chores. Third, be loving to him several times a week." On the way home, the husband asked the wife, "I saw the doctor talking to you and he looked very serious. What did he say?" Wife, "He says, you're gonna die." We must practice Ubuntu in everything we do every day. We must do the hard things lest we die as a faith, as a church, as a community, and as individual UUs. Today, I call upon each of you, each of us, to put the UU in Ubuntu. Remember Ubuntu. I am because we are. Ashe, and may it be so.